it's Joanna. I recorded what I think is a really useful video about how I'm trying to make sure that my goals for 2025 are soul aligned. And I recorded this a few days ago now, but when I listened back to it, there's a click once in a while. I think I got overexcited at certain parts and I knocked the table that my camera was on, that my phone was on. And something was clanging against something else. And so there's this clanging noise once in a while, which is why I haven't released the video yet. But I am releasing it here because I was in just a really good space when I was recording it. And I don't think I can say what I wanted to say better than I did that day. So you'll see it in a minute. You'll see past Joanna in this video in a minute if you choose to listen. If this sort of thing, these sorts of noises, these sorts of kind of unpolished videos with a bit of an error in them aren't for you, then that's fine. Maybe give this video a miss. I am planning to put that content into a blog post as well. So you may want to check the description. If that blog post has been written, then that link will be there. Yeah, but I think the content of the video is really nice. So if you are interested in making sure that your goals are soul aligned and you're interested in seeing what I'm doing to make my own goals soul aligned, then stick around and I hope you enjoy. Hey, it's Joanna. I'm recording this as we close out the year and step into 2025. So let's talk about goals because 'tis the season, right? More specifically, what I want to talk about today is how to set soul aligned goals, because my journey with goals has been very complicated and I'm not pretending that I'm at the end of it, like I haven't mastered it or anything, but I have some thoughts and I think that you might appreciate hearing those thoughts about how to make your goals more true to who you are, more authentic to what really matters to you, and therefore more achievable and also more enjoyable to both like journey towards achieving and to have achieved as well. So yes, I just want to tell you about a few things that I'm doing differently this year to make sure that my own goals are more soul aligned than ever before. Because that's really all we can do, right? Like we can't just jump into perfection, but we can keep making tweaks to our processes so that we go in a better direction for us, that we keep progressing in the right direction, right? So let me start by telling you like how I used to approach goals, because I am very goal oriented, or I have been in the past very goal oriented, very high achieving, and very hard on myself as well about like the kinds of goals I would set or I would want to set, and about, not achieving those goals. I would be really hard on myself when I did not achieve particular goals. And I think like all the things that I used to do, a lot of people still do now. So if that's you, and if you're not happy with how you do things now and how that makes you feel, then this is, an opportunity to change things up and tweak things. And maybe something in this video, hopefully something in this video will spark an idea in you, will give you some food for thought so that you can do things in a more aligned way for you. So when I was in my 20s, I am now 48. I just turned 48 a couple of weeks ago. When I was in my 20s, at the end of each year, essentially, I would look at all the things I disliked about myself, that I disliked about my life, and I would vow to do better, So I would think, well, I'm too fat, so I should be thinner. But all kind of came from this very judgmental place, from this place of just wanting to be this perfect version of myself, or what I imagined would be a better version of myself. And I really bought into this new year, new you stuff, thinking, okay, this is gonna be the year that I get my shit together, that I sort myself out, essentially. So all my goals would come from this place of like not being sorted out, and therefore needing to do something in order to finally get to a place where I felt together. So all these goals came from a lack mentality, like I lacked certain things, like I wasn't good enough, and they were kind of away from goals. So I was trying to move away from a version of myself in my life that I disliked rather than focusing on what I actually wanted or giving any thought really to what I actually wanted. And I was moderately successful with these goals, right? Like some years I did lose weight and some years I did save some more money. At the end of the day, like I was never satisfied. And also I could never quite stay at that perfect level of behavior. And so inevitably, those same goals would show up on my resolutions lists for following years. Then in my 30s, I discovered manifesting and I started to dream big and really, yeah, be bold and bigger, 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 and all this. I bought into that rhetoric. And so all my goals were really big, bold goals, like not just write a book, but write a bestseller, or write 5 books, or make my first million, or I don't even remember any of the other ones, but they were just big goals. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with setting those big goals, but mine weren't really rooted in what was important to me. And therefore, they weren't ones that I would keep on track towards because they weren't where my true self wanted to go in life. And even when I achieved them, so obviously like some of them I did achieve because when you keep pushing yourself towards goals, like you will achieve some of them, but they were never enough. It never felt like I was done, or it never felt like I was good enough. And so I just always moved on to the next goal and the next goal and the next goal. So it was just always this perpetual chasing of something other than what I currently had, always chasing more. And then when I didn't achieve them, I was really harsh on myself, and I would see other people achieve big goals and I'd be like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not achieving these big goals? There must be something seriously off with me. I must not be good enough to have those things. And some of the goals I had, they just weren't things that I actually wanted in the end. And it was just really interesting to notice that, okay, well, did I actually want to lose weight? Or did I think that I would be more lovable or more worthy if I was thinner? So once I started to look at why I wanted certain things, which I did because they were on my list for so long and were never achieved or never fully achieved or never achieved to the extent that I wanted them to be achieved to, or to the standard that I wanted to reach. I started looking at these things and I thought, well, maybe I don't actually want them, maybe I want something different. And what could that be? And what could I do differently? Like it became very important to me in my 40s, since we're going through my decades, in my 40s, especially in the last few years, it's become really important to me to feel good and to feel good about myself, whether I achieve goals or not, and to feel as good as possible in my life, no matter what's happening around me, so that it doesn't all become about achieving more and creating more, and then you never get a chance to just be in what you've already created and enjoy that. So I started thinking about, well, what could I do differently? And that is what I wanted to share with you today. So I've been doing some things differently for a while now and making tweaks here and there and adding some additional elements and getting rid of some of the goals that I know weren't right for me. And I think I've really landed on something that's interesting, and that's what I want to share with you today. So how do we identify the more soul-aligned goals, the goals that are more authentic to who we really are? Well, I have found that we want to let them emerge rather than trying to force them or just trying to, on automatic pilot, go from what we decided was important last year, or how we used to do things last year, or what we didn't achieve this year, or set our goals to be 25% more than what we achieved this year. Like, all those things might be authentic to you, but they might not. And I think that's the key, is to find out what it is that you really want, what it is that will really bring you that sense of life satisfaction and fulfillment. And for me, the life satisfaction and fulfillment come when we live in a more soul-aligned way. So I believe that we are souls having a human experience, which I'm sure is an expression you have heard before. But I think what a lot of people don't think about then is that if we're a soul having a human experience, and that soul part of us, it wanted something from this experience. Like it came with a certain pathway to follow or certain things that it wanted to do, some kind of intention for this lifetime. It didn't just come willy-nilly. And so I think it's really important to identify pieces of what the soul wanted. Like, I don't think we can ever know exactly what the soul wanted until we're in that spiritual realm again. And that's why I think a lot of the stuff that we hear around soul purpose is so simplistic. I just think it's just more complicated, more, not complicated, but complex than we like to think. But I do think that we can get access to aspects of the soul's intention. And I think that we access those aspects through like a softer approach, through letting ourselves dream and feel and experience certain things. So I actually have this theory that often we act like sacks of potatoes that the soul is carrying. It doesn't want to, but that the soul is carrying. So like the soul part of you wants to go in a certain direction, and then and you're like, no, I can't, it's too soon and I'm not ready and I'm not good enough and I still have to learn this and that and whatever. And so you're like being dragged along for the ride. Like the soul wants what the soul wants. So you're going to be going in that direction. And yes, you can resist. But I have found that it's much easier to just go in that direction and see what's there. And usually it's something that's really good for you that maybe you didn't even know you wanted, or maybe you didn't let yourself want, or maybe you talked yourself out of at some point. So I really do think that following what the soul wants is a good idea. And I think when we kind of match up with the soul, like it's like a jigsaw click, that's when we experience that sense of alignment and being really on path and being exactly where we need to be, doing exactly what we're meant to be doing. We experience those feelings of fulfillment and life satisfaction because we're going in exactly the direction we're supposed to be going, experiencing the things that we're meant to be experiencing. So we're perfectly aligned with that soul part of ourselves rather than dragging our feet all the time. So yeah, so how do we then identify what the soul wants? Well, I'm going to tell you about 3 ways that I'm using this year to help myself identify what my soul wants. So the first one is to dream. Let yourself dream before you set your goals. I think this is a step that many of us miss. I have not missed it this year. I have done it now. And I'm really pleased with the insights that I got. This idea actually came from my spirit team, Avalon, who I work with on all my material. And Avalon have been saying for years that we've been missing a step, and that this winter time that we have around the Christmas holidays and the New Year isn't for getting into action, but it's actually this darkness, this dreamy, magical space from which something can emerge. And so they've been encouraging us to dream, to make space for wishing and hoping and dreaming, and not just setting goals for what we think is possible, because what we think is possible is just what we think is possible. It's not necessarily what actually is possible, right? Like it's only what your mind, your logical mind has seen happen before, has decided is a possibility for you, but it's not necessarily all that's out there. And we see amazing things happen for people all the time, things that we didn't think would be possible. And that happens because people allow themselves to want something more, So the first step in this whole process, soul aligned process, is to let yourself dream. If you haven't done that this season already, then this is a great time to still do it. And in fact, anytime you listen to this is a great time to do it. If you haven't done it, it's more important to do it than what time of the year you do it at. So allow some space in your calendar, put aside an hour, and just let yourself journal about what it is that's really important to you and what it is that you really, really want in life. When you think to the next year, what is it that you really want to experience? Like, what do you want to end next year having experienced? How do you want to feel? If you need some direction in this, I actually have a workshop that I created for myself and my clients, and I'll link that in the description box below. It's called Dreams Before Goals. how to identify what you really, really want. And it takes you through a whole series of prompts, tarot inspired prompts to help you reconnect with what it is that you really want, and what it is that will really bring you that sense of fulfillment. I just actually did it yesterday myself, and I'm loving the insights that I got. If you're interested, then some of the things that my soul wants is, or values, some of the things that I really value that really bring me a sense of fulfillment is creativity and connection, like human connection, And I think that's been really lacking in my work in the past few years. And this is something that I'm going to prioritize moving forward. So you can see how this has already given me so much information because, I could set all sorts of goals for what I want to do with my work and what I want to do with my life. But if I know that creativity and connection, for example, are really important to me right now at this point in my journey, then I can use those as a filter, and make sure that my goals that I set are aligned with that and will be satisfying that need for connection and that need for creativity. So yeah, that really came about from allowing myself to dream. I hadn't articulated those particular needs before that. The second thing I'm doing is making what I call a soul map. So if you've been in my world in the Soul Smart community for a longer period of time, and I know some of you have been, we've been doing this now for over 10 years. If you've been in my world for that length of time, then you'll have heard me talk about intuitive vision boarding, intuitive collage. I've kind of played around with what I call it, and now I've landed on the term soul map because that's really the essence of what it is. So it is an intuitive collage. So it's something that you literally create from a piece of paper and some magazines, and you cut and stick things together. It is a form of intuitive art. It's my favorite form of intuitive art. And what that means is that it's something you do with your hands while letting your soul wisdom shine through or move through you. So you're not creating something specific, something intentional. This is not like a vision board where you cut out images of things that you know already that you want. This is a request to your higher self for guidance. And what comes through then is images, and you should be able to see my own board for this year on the screen at some point now, hopefully, if the editing version of me got this right. But what you end up with is a collection of images that together give you like a sense of direction, an energetic sense of direction for what's important for the next phase of your life. So you can make one of these for the year or for the month or for whatever chunk of time works for you. I used to make them monthly, actually. I currently make one for the year, but who knows? Like if I feel like I need another one during the course of the year, I will absolutely make one. This one really served me very, very well through the course of the year. And it's really the first time that I've kept so in touch with it. So the energy of my board, of my soul map, was brave, to be brave. And that might not be what you see from my soul map, but that is what I felt from my soul map. Therefore, I know that it's true. And I have let that energy of being brave really steer me this year. So if I had a decision to make or a choice between a few things, I would ask myself, where would I be brave? What would courage mean in this situation? And that means that I pushed myself gently outside of my comfort zone, and I did things that maybe I wouldn't have done without that sense of direction. So my soul map has really made my life so much richer, so much better this year, and I am excited to make another one soon. So I do have a separate video about this. I also have a whole class about it, and we will be doing our soul maps together in like a supported round at some point in January. So make sure you're on my mailing list if you want to hear more about that. Or if you already know how to do an intuitive collage, then do that and let your soul give you. It's like your soul giving you your word of the year, like I see people picking their words of the year all over the internet at this time of the year. And I always wonder, are these words really serving these people? When I think in some cases they are but in some cases they're not. And I feel like when I used to choose a word of the year just from my logical mind or based on what I wanted, so like abundance or plenty or joy, they just didn't give me as much soul growth and as much fulfillment and as much enrichment as the words that emerge from the soul map have. Again, it's coming from a different part of you. It's tapping into more possibility, into this, infinite field of possibility. And that part of you knows why it's here, why you're living the life you're living, with the challenges that you have and what you're supposed to do next. So I feel like that instruction, that sense of direction from your soul self is extremely, extremely helpful. So the soul map, I haven't done mine for 2025 yet, but I'm still spending time with my 2024 one and really thinking about how being brave has helped me this year and how grateful I am to have had that energetic sense of direction and that filter for some of the choices that I had to make this year. And lastly, the third thing that I'm doing, which I happened upon quite accidentally, but now I see is a huge game changer for identifying what it is that I really, really want, is going through the newsletters you're signed up for, the Substacks, the YouTube channels, the podcasts, all the content that you're consuming, to just look through what you're signed up for and clean it up, unsubscribe from the things that no longer interest you and note down the things that do interest you. And you'll find that there are categories. And I think this works because one of the ways in which the soul communicates with us is through curiosity and joy and that sense of wonder and excitement that comes with following those sparks in life, that where you follow them, you're just like, oh, I can't wait to learn more about this, or I can't wait to experience this, or like, how is this my life, And when you go through the content that you're consuming, you will have a reaction to things, like I just went through all my Substacks that I subscribed to, and I looked through the various posts that each person made, and some of them I was literally like, ugh, like this is just not for me. So whether I signed up for it because I thought it might be, or I thought I should, or whatever, I just unsubscribe. If I have that reaction, then I unsubscribe. And some of them I was like, oh, I forgot that I'd signed up for this and I'm so excited to learn more. And I noticed themes appearing. And so it gave me a really, really clear indication of the areas that are most aligned for me to pursue in the next year or in the next phase. You can do this as often as you want. Obviously, it's just that a new year gives you an opportunity to do it more collectively, I suppose. But it's just been really interesting paying attention to how my body responds to certain people, to certain creators and certain topics as well. And it's given me so much insight. So for example, I've signed up to a whole load of content around witchcraft and magic, and that involved a lot of like nature-y stuff. And a lot of the nature-y stuff, as I was reading through it, I was just like, this is just not me. It's just not for me, It doesn't mean that those topics of witchcraft and magic are not interesting to me. They absolutely are. And there are creators that have a very special place in my world that I still consume content from. But it doesn't mean that I have to consume all the content on those particular topics. And it's just been really interesting for me to see what kinds of content in those specific areas is actually interesting to me, and therefore what areas to pursue in terms of what I want to learn and what I want to explore, and what I want to talk about with you guys as well. I won't bore you with all the other categories that came from my introspection, but it was really interesting. And when I noticed how interesting it was that themes were emerging and certain kinds of content were definitely not for me, I thought to myself that I needed to share it with you too, because it was such a great way, such a practical way to identify where curiosity and joy and wonder and excitement were actually leading you, rather than trying to come up with it out of thin air. So there you go. Those are 3 very specific things that I am doing this year to make sure that my goals are soul aligned, and I invite you to try 1 or 2 or all 3 of them to make sure that your goals are soul aligned. And just remember that your goal setting and your goals and the pursuit of your goals and the achievement of your goals should feel good to you in some way. So if you prioritize feeling good, then you'll find your own way forward, and that's what it's all about. I hope you have found something useful in this video for yourself. I wish you all the best in your planning goal setting process, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.